Hello, everybody, and welcome back. This is part 2 with our guest, JD Proverse. Last week, we talked a little bit about his CD that just came out. That is the CD, I'm Just Saying, you guys, which, unfortunately, I don't think he could get changed to the more correct version of Just the Tip. This week, we're going to be talking about I don't remember. So why don't you just listen to the episode with our guest, JD Proverse. Again, this is part 2, and if you want to, go back and listen to part 1, where JD talks about masturbating in front of his grandma. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Open Mic Gripe with myself, Jay Rice, and my co-host, Jeffrey Ide, the place where serious and silly complaints come to chat. Open Mic Gripe is a weekly podcast dedicated to hearing your gripes, grievances, and opinions on any and all topics.
Every episode, Jay and I will have the opportunity to get to the bottom of the issues which are lingering on the back of your mind and engage in order to create constructive conversation using a combination of lighthearted comedy and well-formed logic.
If you feel like we are wrong, inappropriate, or biased, then call in, email, or tweet and let your voice be heard. You can email us at openmicgripe@gmail.com or tweet to us at openmicgripe, both of those open mic gripes being one word, and you can also find us on Facebook. Just search for Open Mic Gripe.
So jump on in and gripe on the open mic with Jay Rice and Jeffrey Ide.
Shame culture is bullshit.
Yes.
Just make that clear. Shame culture is fucking dumb. As somebody who's, not to get super depressing all of a sudden, but as somebody
if we can't make you cry, JD, we didn't do this
dealt
right.
extensively in his formative years with shame culture, fuck that. And frankly, and again, I'm a completely fucking armchair psychologist, whatever. I don't have a strong education in this shit. I just have thoughts that I've had along the way.
Share those thoughts.
But I have this sneaking suspicion that if you were to start incorporating a more sex-positive sort of attitude in children, in that sense of, like, these drives are natural, these urges are okay, it's fine to explore that as long as you do it with a little safety and responsibility because there are risks associated. I think you can also start to foster a culture where these are less like, these are activities that are just like, I don't know, you become
like
less
sharp rocks on the end of a cliff.
What I'm trying to say is you perhaps become less judgmental about when and how and what. I feel like you could foster a less shallow culture in that sort of environment, I think.
But we're still going to be obsessed with celebrities, though,
But
right?
Well, of course, but that's...
I mean, does this come from the idea that, I mean, in terms of what people are into sexually is very diverse.
Absolutely.
And so by not making people feel shame for a lot of these sexual
Right,
feelings, that it might open people up to...
And people, like, I think that's one of the things, and I think you've seen a certain amount of that just in the proliferation worldwide of the internet, where there are these small communities that, like, this is just something that the internet has done since day one, these small communities that spring up where people realize, yeah, there aren't necessarily a lot of us who are into this thing or do this thing, but it's
Flat
a
earthers.
thing. It's, well, yeah, exactly. But it's a thing, and it's fine for it to be a thing, and nobody's going to make you feel like a shithead because that's
It also has, and I will applaud the overwhelmingly positive part of the internet for this, but at the same hand, it also allows anti-vaxxers to organize.
People together too. Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a tool.
Yeah.
You know, it's you can hammer a nail or you can hammer a skull. You know, it's a couple of different ways that can work. But no, I have this suspicion that if you were to be able to foster a more sex-positive culture, you could also make huge strides in general towards reducing shame culture. in a lot of ways, and that can't be anything but good.
Well, there are a few countries in the world where monotheism.
But then everybody's gonna get a first place ribbon in that world.
No, man, nobody.
What?
Not everybody needs to get a. I don't think I'm even against.
It's not a Mr. Rogers, we're all winners world.
Yeah, not everybody needs to even get a participation ribbon. It's like it's just an understanding that like, the things you're into are not necessarily. And what I guess is, there are people out there who are into pretty much anything, and so like, if those people feel more comfortable about being open about what they're in. Basically, if somebody who likes to suck on toes is more comfortable about admitting that they like to suck on toes, they're going to be more likely easier to find somebody who likes having their toes sucked on. Mm-hmm. And then you bring those people together and everybody's fine, and then it's fucking everybody just gets to be who they want to be, and they can just be people.
That should be the name of your next album, like that whole description.
Right? That'll be the whole thing. I don't know. It's fucking, this is just complete stream of consciousness conversation at this point. But one of my favorite authors of all time, probably my single favorite author of all time, is Kurt Vonnegut, and he's got a lot of really well-known and respected books. Slaughterhouse-Five probably being the biggest one. But one of his books that really resonated with me on a huge level, because I think conceptually, it sort of prefigures those ideas that we've just been talking about with like these small collectives on the internet, and how just the idea of feeling like belonging to things matters. And it's a book called Slapstick, and there's a gimmick in the book where it takes place in some abstract, vague future time, where in the United States, a new naming convention for people has been created, and everybody's name just has these different parts. So you're like you would be like J Apple Delta, or whatever. Just this, and the name signifiers are randomly assigned across the population, with the idea being that now, if you're J Apple Delta, everybody who's an apple is part of your family. Everybody who's a Delta is part. And it's this concept of
fucking Deltas. I'm ready to fight the Deltas.
Well, and ultimately, see, that's
good thing you're not based just on impulse.
But it's this idea of
I go with my gut.
It's this idea of everyone is assigned those things. And not everybody is in the same group, but nobody is excluded from every group.
I'll tell you, I'm down with Deltas.
Everybody has a group. And I think the overall concept is the idea of it doesn't matter what the actual unifying detail is. People just want to not feel alone in their experience. Like, that is a terrifying thing. The idea of being completely alone,
unless you're a hermit,
your experience. Well, okay, fine. Maybe there are a few people who are into that. It's a thing. I think for most of us,
but that's a choice. Nobody wants to do it.
Right. I think for
without
most
their
of
own
us,
volition.
so just anything you can do at all to foster a culture where people are free to communicate about the things that they feel the most isolated about, is where you're going to develop a situation where those people... I just got hugged. That's because being able to communicate about those things is how those people find each other.
Right.
Like, so, if nobody is putting up a flag that says, hey, I'm weird like this... Nobody who is also weird like this is going to be able to find them. And until you can make them feel safe about putting that flag up, then we're doing something incredibly wrong.
So maybe that's all hecklers are doing. Deep. Why do you hate hecklers?
Why do I hate hecklers?
Maybe that's all they're doing, man. They're just trying to reach out. They're just trying to use that moment just to try to find the time to reach out and be with.
Frankly, to be honest, I'm trying more and more to change the way I address hecklers. I still occasionally get very aggressive and upset by it, which is, just a bad habit. But I'm actually trying to incorporate a more positive approach where somebody heckles me in the middle of a joke, instead of attacking them and being aggressive, just try to put the brakes on them and be like, hey man, let's talk for a minute. Like, what is it that's going on in your life that brings
makes
you
you feel like you need to be like this?
Like, clearly there's something that's, and trying to maybe bring them in, and just clearly something's on their mind and they got to try and work something out, or maybe they got an issue, so just trying to be more, and then of course you turn it into jokes on them, just you make it look like it's way more friendly. But
inside you're just seething.
I'm still seething with rage. Seething with rage. Absolutely. It's all a ploy. It's a gimmick. But no, you just you just try to, I don't know, man. We just go out of our way to. That's how they fucking win. Is they
That's
keep
how
us,
the terrorists win.
That's how the bad people
that's
win.
How the comedy terrorists
they
win.
keep us fucking bickering amongst, like.
Maybe he considers himself a freedom fighder of the audience.
I'm sure some of them do.
God, I don't want to be anybody's champion, man. I just want to be. I don't want to champion any cause, or I just want to be a dude who just talks about. And again, like, I'm fucking dumb.
There was a dude.
I'm probably wrong about a lot of things. In fact, I am wrong about a lot of things, and I fuck up probably more than most people do. But I don't know. You just got to be a person, right?
I love that. This is like, thank you, JD, for offering us the minimal commitment of being a human being on this planet.
You gotta be a person.
You gotta be a person. You gotta be a dude. Anything above that is asking too much.
What? See,
I think that's asking quite a bit. Actually.
Why are you against trans animal people?
I'm not.
Because then they don't have to just be a person. They want to be an animal, man.
You're talking about furries or animorphs?
No, furries are not. I'm talking like Tiger Man.
Man, are we? Again, let's. You mentioned furries. Let's talk about furries for a minute. You got a problem with furries?
I don't have a problem with furries.
Can I inject something that's been bothering me?
Furries have been unfortunately maligned.
Furries?
Yeah. My encounters with, frankly, and this is gonna get me just like.
My encounters with furries.
No, this is because this goes in on a number of levels. Most people dislike juggalos way more than I do as well. I'm not saying
I don't think I would dislike them. I just wouldn't.
Saying I'm throwing my hatchets out, painting my clown face on or nothing. I'm just saying,
I'm just not going to go up and talk to somebody who clearly hates their father as obviously as they do.
I've had more than my share of direct interactions with juggalos. And, there's fucking strange, not good people in that. But there's plenty of decent people.
I don't mind juggalos.
You can't, but it's...
So what the fuck does this have to do with furries?
It's the same sort of thing. I think furries are sort of collectively unfairly maligned. Like, I've had a few direct interactions and indirect interactions with furries, mostly at, like conventions and events and shit like that. And, I don't know, man. I think they're just, like, I don't get it. Don't get me wrong. I don't get it. Because, like cosplay... Like, cosplay, I get, right?
Really?
I get cosplay in the sense of like wanting to be a specific character from a thing you like to represent your fandom of that. I would get it more if it was like a specific dog,
okay.
Like if they were gonna cosplay like McGruff the crime dog, or they're cosplaying us. But
is it always like, about a sexual fetish?
No, absolutely not. It's 100% not always about a sexual fetish. Yeah, there is that element to it. For some people,
that's the part I get.
But it's absolutely not always that, and that's the kind of shit. It just, man, yeah.
I think a huge problem that is of course that people are not able to identify people in their lives who are furries, and because you can't put a face to a furry.
You don't know if they're a furry or a communist.
I don't know about that. I've been to enough events to be able to say that I've seen plenty of people. Who I've seen them with in their costumes with their masks on. And
I have
off.
difficulty trusting people who I can't interact with facial expression.
I don't.
Well, they can
don't
with
have to-
the people that are really
nobody's-
into it can furrow their brows
Well, and also
and
nobody's saying you have to interact with them. It's just they're just they're different people.
I'm not worried about
man.
like being
They're
trapped
just-
in a
they're just
corner
doing
with
a
a bunch of
thing.
furries. I'm just kind
And,
of
like that's actually always an interesting thing to me. Is there part of that whole idea of reducing shame culture and reducing bringing people together and unifying them. Is
I wonder
that,
if people that are furries, if there's a subgroup of furries that don't want to have sex with other furries but would like to have sex with somebody that is not a furry.
yeah, they probably
like that.
I see. My response to things like that is that probably exists.
Guessing they're out there.
What's interesting to me is that you're curious about that at all. Like that's and I'm not even saying that's a bad thing. It's just that's what's interesting to me about it is that you would have any curiosity.
he's not curious.
About
He's
it.
hoping.
I'm already
So what you're saying is
I'm already putting the costume together in my head that I want to have sex
What you're saying is
with.
you, as a non-furry, would like to have sex with a furry.
Yeah, well, yeah, because I can't afford to make myself into a furry, so we'll just go with that route.
It's not incredibly expensive.
True, I mean, but if I was gonna be a furry, I'd go
Jay-
all out furry,
Jay,
man.
you own a rather sizable house. I mean, certainly not a mansion on the hill, but you own a respectably sized home. I'm pretty sure you could afford to be a furry.
Oh man, well,
He's
all
calling
right,
you
I might
out.
have to.
You're gonna have to
so-
furry it up.
I might have
I'm
to.
not even saying you have to. I'm just saying you're going to have to come up with a more believable excuse than I can't afford
true.
to be a furry. We're in a fancy podcasting studio in one of several basement rooms of finished basement rooms, no less, in a rather respectable middle class home
Yeah, Jay. I kind of want to see you with a furry suit
owned
now.
by a single man.
well, all right. Guess I might have to get my
Come
furry
see
on.
Jay and I during our promotions, where Jay will be wearing his furry costume.
I've got it.
If you were going to be a furry, Jay, what kind of animal would you go for?
See, I don't know. That's what I've been trying to figure out because I mean I
There's
like the
there's a
aesthetic of the
purple dog
wolf.
furry.
I like the aesthetic of the wolf.
Okay.
head.
Aesthetic.
I do. I like, and I would want
Go
the mouth
figure.
to move.
Jay likes the idea of being a wolf. I never would have seen that coming.
Ow.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Are there less
think I've shopped
sexy
around.
versions of furries? Like, can you be like a furry chicken?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, what's interesting about it to me is that you like it's and again, I'm not saying
Can you be
this
like a furry
has-
armadillo?
I'm not saying this has anything to do with anything other than probably just the only exposure you've had to the culture, maybe. But the idea that like everything about furries is sexual, and it's like that's what's interesting about it to me is how like you relate everything like you're like, are there less sexual? Of course there are less sexual. There are 100% non-sexual
Furry
furries.
spiders.
There are and it's not the type of creature. It's just the purpose of what they do. You know, some of them it's just it's. And again, nobody's asking anybody, and this is, I think, a big part of nurturing tolerance and that sort of thing.
Well, let
nurturing
me put this out
acceptance is
there.
Nobody's asking you to understand it.
Well, let me put this out there. I am actually quite ignorant
Okay.
about the desire, the lifestyle,
Oh, so am
what
I.
goes on
I don't know
about
a lot
furries.
about it at
so,
all.
if you would like to come on the show and present
I
to
have
us
some
a
friends that I
perspective.
could. I mean, if it's something
That'd be
you're
interesting.
genuinely interested in talking about,
Yeah.
I have some
We'd
friends
love to
I
have
could
a
talk
furry
to.
on.
I would very
who
much
would
like to talk
probably
to
be
somebody.
more than happy
Also,
to do that sort of
anyone
thing.
out there who'd like to call in,
Because
and,
I do
if
think,
you're
like,
furry,
I understand that, like, a lot of the more broad spectrum exposure people have had to that culture is strictly in relation to the sexual fetish element of it. That, again, absolutely does exist. But I think that's something that can be, it's part of, I guess, what's
I think
really
for most
important
people
about,
who are not furries,
about
that's their.
podcast culture
Right.
is you can, it's an opportunity to sort of
But people who
open
are
up
not
those-
people who are not furries, though, that's how they tend to rationalize
Right,
it.
yeah,
That's,
because
that's
that's
like,
the
well,
only
it makes
element
sense
of
because
it.
people are into all kinds of kinky
right,
shit.
Right, but there's but yeah, I can definitely talk to a couple of people and see if maybe some people would like to come in and talk to you about it. It's a
If they want to be anonymous as well, that's fine.
it's a fascinating culture, and I
But
just
they probably want to identify as their furry self.
right, and again, it's a matter of I just think that's a big part of it is just like Like, nobody's asking anybody to understand. We're just asking you to accept that nothing that we're doing is causing any kind of a problem for you. So
I just took a quiz. Apparently, I'd be a rabbit.
You'd be a rabbit furry?
A rabbit?
I could see that.
I guess.
I guess, yeah, I could probably see that.
I don't know if that feels like that's like the inner me would in the inner
Jay's gotta
furry of
express
me.
himself the way he needs to.
I gotta be me.
I mean, if I was being real honest, I'd actually probably be a leopard.
Oh, God.
A leopard?
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys
You'd be
can't see
anything
this
of-
because it's podcast, but Jay's got like a leopard print Kleenex box, leopard print
drapes.
coasters, leopard print drapes.
Leopard print printed on my body.
Leopard
I'm
thong.
pretty sure Jay somewhere has a leopard print Speedo
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
that he.
that's a given.
It's really sort of.
All right, guys, I got a gripe for us.
By the way, one girl that I used to date told one of her friends about my apartment. This was a while back when I was in college, but she goes, "Honey, have you asked him?" And she was like, "Ask him what? If he's gay?" Because apparently I had, and this lady was in gay and lesbian interior design. That was her specific realm. And apparently I had a very gay apartment with all my Marilyn Monroe and leopard print everywhere. So I could put in off maybe a different atmosphere than other dudes my age.
Well, as long
I'm
as you're
sorry,
comfortable.
Jay was talking, so I took a minute to check my Facebook notifications.
All right, well,
That's such a dick move.
at some
But no, I caught the whole story. I could definitely see somebody. There's a lot of leopard print going on in this room. It's an interesting.
That's what color I'm gonna paint this wall.
you're going to paint it leopard?
Leopard print.
Hell yeah! I used to have leopard print
You
hair.
could probably
Oh, yeah.
do that way easier with wallpaper.
Ah,
All I'm
wallpaper. I'll hand do this.
saying. Oh Christ.
What I got to know is,
Okay.
if there are time-traveling tourists,
Okay.
I need to know, is the fact that we don't have any time-traveling tourists around us, does that mean that, in fact, is never going to be possible? Or does that mean that our time is so meaningless and boring in history that nobody wants to visit it?
Well, I kind of feel like one of the rules of time traveling tourism is that you don't say you're from the future.
Yeah. What makes you think there are no time traveling tourists around
Yeah.
us?
I'm pretty sure that's like rule number 1.
Yeah. Rule number 1: you just never identify yourself as a time traveling tourist.
There are actually groups of academics who are trying to set traps for time-traveling tourists.
And how are they doing this?
They,
You know what's funny about that? Is the time traveling tourists would already be aware that they were trying to set them.
that's true, but they've done things like left messages that could be discovered by the future, saying, "Come, we're having a gathering. Come back."
Oh, so it's not
In
so
time.
much a trap. It's
an invitation.
An invitation to prove yourself. Which again, the whole point is you never want to prove yourself. So why would they accept an invitation to prove themselves? That's like a mousetrap with a piece of cheese on it that has a sign that a mouse can read that says, "Eating this cheese will kill you."
We're not killing them.
No, but you're trying to trap them.
it's
So
a gentle trapping.
If their whole rule number
Oh,
one
like
is,
you've got a box and a stick and a string.
again,
And then you're
if
just like,
rule number 1 is never identify yourself, why would you accept an invitation to identify yourself?
Well, why wouldn't you want to identify yourself? Wouldn't you be a
Because
celebrity? in
it's
that?
rule
Fuck up
number
the
1.
time stream.
Why would I follow that? And first of all, I guess let's assume here that there's like parallel dimensions, right? You're not going to fuck
Well,
up
then
your
that's
own
not
future.
time travel.
Not.
so you're
I
saying if
feel
you go
like-
back and change history,
You can go back and
it's-
live in a time.
I feel like the alternate multiverse theory, where there is a universe that represents every possible outcome of every possible decision ever made. You know, in the idea of infinite multiverses, ultimately, so every possible outcome is representative, is just an end-around angle for time travel, because now you're not going to a different time, you're going to a different universe.
Yeah, you're right. Sliders was a good show.
Exactly. Not time travel.
But also,
but-
this study, which was done by the Michigan Technological University, was
Which
searching.
I literally didn't even know existed until today, so clearly a very credible source.
Yes. Listen, they had a very simple strategy to search all of the internet for prescient content placed on the, so looking for anything where people knew the future before it happened. These are time traveling tourists. Mm-hmm. That's what they're looking for.
Or people who guessed really well.
It could be.
Yeah.
But then they'd be investigated.
Just seems, again, the Michigan what? See, that's how much I recognize this entity that's carrying out this study. Is you just told me the name and I've already forgotten it. But I don't have enough.
When they trap a time tourist, you're going to be eating these words, JD. You're going to be like, I had heard of them, but I couldn't remember. You're going to want to remember that name in the future.
Yeah. Well,
Time traveling tourists out there, remember the Michigan something or other.
right.
Stay
Yeah.
out of Michigan,
Some
you guys.
Some dudes in Michigan set a trap
For
for
your
a time traveler.
That would be a
Came from the
TV show I would
future.
watch. Like, dude.
A time traveler from the future who fell for a trap in the past would be the worst time traveler ever.
I'm talking about.
Oh
about
my
the
God.
the
That
team
would...
of the team of academics going out there and grilling people about the future.
No, you're wrong. That the concept for the show that sells tickets is this is somebody out there who writes pilot scripts. This is the story. Time travelers from the future come back in time and fall for a trap that was set for them in the past. That's the story. Cut, print, gimme an Emmy. That's that's the kind of shit that America will just eat up.
But then it's going to be like set, like kind of friend style, so then they just have chats about it.
Right.
They're
Oh,
just
yeah.
like, what was it like in the future? You know.
Way cooler than this.
Well, they are obviously were idiots from the future because they
Right.
got stuck in that trap.
Yeah.
It's not like they're going to be
Just-
real. It's not going to be real beneficial.
The name of the show will be World's Dumbest Time Traveler.
And they pick the laziest slob to come back
Maybe
in time.
maybe he was an accidental time traveler like Fry in Futurama, where he fell into the suspension thing, but it was like the backwards effect.
It just fell into suspension thing and
Yeah,
woke up in the past.
Fry in the but you know what I mean. Just obviously he's not gonna fall into a stasis tube and go back in time. I'm saying he accidentally goes back in time because he's a numbskull, and he just stumbles into a time machine.
He's like the Chris Farley
Right.
of
He's
time
the
travelers.
Philip J. Fry of reverse time travel. I don't even know what's happening right now. We've been talking for a long time.
Yes.
Yes, it's good.
JD, were there any?
Yes.
How was recording your CD?
Oh, talk about a man. We just jumped topics from.
How
one
was
end.
that?
We traveled through time back to his city.
Right, we jumped back in time about an hour and 15 minutes.
This is
When
probably
we
a
were
question that
talking
should have
about
came up
the album.
earlier.
That's
You know?
all right. It's fair enough. No, well, what we did is it was a great weekend. It was the first weekend in March earlier this year. I was, like I said, I was in that middle feature spot. Adam Quinnell, who's also a comedian from here in Fargo, that most people, I think, at least if you're around this area, you're familiar with. He was the headliner on those shows. And again, like I said, the initial plan was we were going to record all 5 of them and then try to piece some things together. And it was a real interesting weekend, man. Like, I'm glad we recorded all 5 of them because there were a couple of them that were really good, and there were a couple of them that I won't say they were bad, but they were interesting, to say the least. There were some. It's a really
Interesting. Kind of like that thing where somebody gives you something to eat and you hate it, and then you're like, oh, interesting.
right. Yeah, it's just like, oh, that was a weird experience. But no. What was I ultimately trying to say here? I don't know. It was fun. It was a good time. There was
JD
some,
needs a nap.
No,
JD sleepy?
JD just
Want some
smoked
milk?
a bunch of
Milk
weed
break?
before he came over and was coming down. But it was my buddy Denny from Minneapolis who runs a company called Beast Mountain Audio. He came down to record everything for me and handled all the production and editing and everything on it. It sounds fantastic. He did a really great job. So yeah, it was an interesting experience. It just ultimately. I think there are some people who, the way they do comedy, they have done that sort of process to better success, where they record several different shows and they're able to piece it together into more of a full-length thing. That we just ran into a lot of sort of just issues with
Logistic
pacing
issues.
and stuff, just trying to chop, because I just kind of have a tendency to ramble in a lot of ways.
Wait, what?
Yeah, exactly.
So is this, and now is this kind of pushing you forward to try to do more with comedy?
The plan is hopefully I've got some new material that I'm working on, obviously, and some stuff that had been on the back burner for a while that I'm starting to develop again, and hopefully going to try and record a full 45 to 50 minute thing just as a single recording session sometime like mid to late next year. Is the plan at this point. There might be a little bit of material from this record that ends up on that record, because that's something that I'm looking at as more of a sort of an official, kind of. We'll do physical media with that, and we'll do
Gotcha.
some full blown artwork presentation and everything. So I guess I almost
JD.
kind of feel like this release I just put out as being almost more like what a band would refer to as like a demo release. Sort of self-produced. Paid somebody to come in and twiddle the knobs a little bit for you, and then
How much you got to pay for that?
how much you got to pay for somebody to twiddle your knobs a little bit?
Yeah.
Enough
If
that
it's
I was
Jeffrey,
able
only
to
5
afford it
cents.
for a weekend. It was pretty great. But no, so it's
15 cents for moist.
moist. Damp cake. Damp cake.
Do you
I've been
have
saying
any-
that for a long time.
Do you have any pet peeves as a comedian?
Yeah, people who don't shut the fuck up while I'm trying to tell jokes. It's real frustrating. I dislike heckling, obviously, as well, but I hate so much more the people who aren't even heckling.
Just talking.
They're just talking. They're just having a conversation amongst themselves a while. Because, at least with a heckler, I at least have a chance to try and, turn whatever they're doing into getting some laughs. But people who just sit there and have a chat, or people who are, like, looking at their Facebook or sending text messages or whatever.
You don't even
It's
like
like-
people looking at their phone?
No.
They have to be undivided in their
It's-
attention to you.
No, they don't even have to be paying attention to me. The problem is the phone. It's incredibly distracting for you to be on stage, bright lights in your face, making the rest of the room mostly a pitch black sea, and then out of nowhere, suddenly somebody's face is illuminated in the darkness with this fucking phone. And also, frankly, yeah,
How dark is this place?
It can be incredibly dark, but also, frankly, yeah, you came to the fucking show, put your goddamn phone away.
Maybe it's not good.
Rude. Well, if it's not good, there's another room 10 feet away. You can get up and walk
Maybe you're
out.
waiting
Wait,
for
but
the next comedian.
Well,
is this
then
why you're
don't
always
be a
on
dick.
Is this why you're always on your phone when I'm doing stand up?
Look, man, open mics are a different story. I'm not
Okay, well,
talking
you
about
didn't make
open
this
mics.
clear that this is open mics.
Open mics, I don't give a fuck, man. An open mic is what it is. I'm talking about, like, comedy shows.
Okay.
Open mics is it's a hell world that you just have to learn to navigate as a comedian. And, I would prefer people not be on their phones, and I would prefer people not be talking, but that world is what it is.
So what if I'm there because my girlfriend asked me to go, and it's not my cup of tea, but I'm enjoying it for when I get the giggle? What if I just need to check my phone?
Then get up and step outside as if you were going outside to have a cigarette break or something. Do your business out there and come back.
I don't
in
even
when
get
you're
up and
done.
leave the room for a fart.
Well, you should.
Really?
You're a rude person, Jeffrey.
Yeah.
I care about other people's health.
That's just ultimately nobody's saying you have to do anything. You're just kind of a dick if you don't. Is the point. And that's why it's a pet peeve. It's just rude. It's not even so much that I mean, a part of it definitely is that it's rude to me as a performer, but it's also rude to everybody around you who actually is trying to pay attention to the show. That shit is real distracting.
So me using my phone bothers other
yeah, it can.
clients.
It can. And also, like I said, I mean, if I'm fine if what I'm doing is not your cup of tea and you don't enjoy it. What I'm not okay with is you making things weird for other people who are trying to enjoy it. And I don't see why it's a big deal to just ask people to quietly get up and step out of the room if they absolutely have to check their phone during
Don't you
the
think
show.
there are some people that would also be bothered by the fact that this person is getting up and going outside?
Well, they have to get up and go to the bathroom. They have to
Right.
get up. They have to leave the room.
Most people put
the wait
off getting
staff-
up and going to the bathroom because they don't want to bother the
You'd be
people around them.
surprised. I would hasten to say that I have been on stage at a comedy show more times than you have been in the audience at a comedy show, and you would be amazed how often people have no problem at all just getting up in the middle of a show and walking out of the room. It's pretty common occurrence. Probably because most of the time they have to. It's a bathroom. And that's not a problem. I don't have a problem at all with somebody, because I have to deal with, again, wait staff walking in and out of the room all the time. That's something you learn to
So
deal
you're
with.
used to it.
Absolutely.
So that's why it doesn't bother you.
Right. The point is, it's not rude. It's incredibly rude to sit at your table and talk during a show.
Well, talking I can understand because that's something that if you're listening to the show and someone right next to you is
And
talking.
using your phone can be incredibly distracting as well. Again, not in every situation, but in a lot of situations. And again, it's a matter of fucking how hard is it to stand up and walk 20 feet and take care of things and come back?
What if the whole time they're sitting there, they were just writing tweets about how hilarious you are? Would you still want them? But then if they get out of the room, then they can't continue to write
I
those
would
tweets.
appreciate the sentiment, but it's still incredibly rude.
Okay.
I would rather they wait and extol my virtues after the show is over.
Is that your biggest pet peeve about comedy, or do you think your
it's not
biggest
even
pet
remotely
peeve?
my biggest pet peeve about comedy. It's a pet peeve about comedy.
What's your biggest one?
My biggest pet peeve about comedy has nothing to do with the shows at all and everything to do with the business, because the business of comedy is such a fucking pain in the ass. It's so it's headaches and nightmares, and I don't even want to get into the navigation of it. It's just
How do you feel about what Patton Oswalt just said at the last Just for Laughs, where he was talking about how basically it's all up to the comedian now. Like, there's no excuse for, if you really want to make it, that there's nothing standing in your way. Because you have all the power of social media to get yourself out there.
To a certain extent, I absolutely agree with that. But again, it depends on, I think, what your definition of quote-unquote making it is.
Right.
There's nobody who can stop you from getting your shit out there for the world to see anymore. If you're willing to put in the effort, if you're willing to work hard and find, and not just find, but also create those opportunities for yourself. I know a lot of comedians, that's exactly what they do. They have a hard time getting booked at normal comedy clubs and standard comedy rooms, so they just get on the phone and they start calling places and they book their own shows in unique venues. You know, they'll book shows at bars and coffee shops. They create opportunities for them to get out there and do what they do. And so, yeah, I do agree with him in the sense of it's still, and in fact, more so than ever. Because I think you could definitely say in the past, especially for like music recording, but for recording artists in general, I think in the past it was significantly more difficult. More so than ever, the only thing standing between you and at least getting your work out there and getting some sort of exposure is how hard are you willing to work. And it's definitely a lot of work. There are guys out there who put me to shame in how much they work compared to how little I work sometimes. But yeah, to a certain extent, absolutely. Getting, if your definition of success is making a living doing not just making a living doing comedy, but, being sort of a semi-household name and being on TV and, making, an extravagant living of sorts, that's still plenty difficult. But yeah, the only
You're not doing enough door to door.
Yeah, the only thing stopping you from being from getting your shit out there is a lack of interest in actually going out of your way to do it. And there's unfortunately a lot of sort of almost what I occasionally classify as hobbyists who don't seem to understand that yes, being a comedian and getting to do that is awesome. But unless you're okay with only doing like a few shows, you're okay with doing 2 or 3 shows a month, or a couple of shows a quarter or whatever. If you want to do this as a living, it is a job, and you have to work real hard at it. And if that's not what you want to do, that's fine. I'm not even criticizing those people.
I'm a hobbyist.
No, it is what it is.
I'm one of those dirty hobbyists.
I try so hard not to make it
disgusting hobbyists.
It is, and there are plenty of incredibly hilarious people at that level, who I think are. In fact, there are so many people I can think of who it bums me out that they're just like, it's it's a fun thing for them, but they don't necessarily have the same like career level ambitions, and which is again fine. But yeah, it's interesting on a number of levels. Why are you waving this black flag at me? I don't understand what's happening right now. Are you giving me a signal?
No, sometimes Jeffrey's just inappropriate with his studio movements.
Oh, right on.
It does happen.
It was so distracting that I don't even remember what I started talking about.
Yeah, put that thing down. What are you doing?
Who knows, man?
Diddling.
Who knows?
God, have to shame you on your own podcast.
Here,
Just
throw leopard print at you.
oh, that's
so
his.
weird.
That's his. Anyway,
It's his random thing.
so this is.
I'm back to using the pop screen as a mask. You can't see it, but it's hilarious.
Sound level's really good.
I'm
now.
the master of visual jokes on podcasts. This is why I'm at the level of comedy I still am, because I do these great jokes, but nobody will ever know.
He hasn't worn it as a hat yet or anything, or I mean.
Oh, did I drink this whole beer? I did drink.
I think you did drink that whole beer.
I drank all this 1 pint 8 fluid ounces, 24 ounces of beer, two cans of beer equivalent. Sierra Nevada Torpedo Extra IPA. It was really
So
good.
JD, how much weed did you smoke before you get here?
Not a
before
lot.
you got here?
I mean, an average amount, I would say. An average going out to do things for an afternoon amount.
Basically, the requisite amount it takes for me to leave my house.
Right.
Oh,
No,
okay.
Not even. It doesn't. It's not even required to leave the house. It's just I didn't get
Benefit.
I didn't get pounded, but I got high enough to talk.
High enough to talk?
Yeah.
Do you need?
No, it's not a real thing.
Okay.
No, I actually, I'll do an open mic with a head full of weed, but I kind of try to go out of my way to be clear-headed on the pro shows, because it definitely creeps up in my performance and my random babbling the more intoxicated I am. So yeah, for the professional gigs, I keep it straight, but yeah, it's
The rambling?
Which frankly, it occurs to me just now means that I don't really consider this podcast a professional gig, because I got super high. So clearly,
It's not a professional. We're not paying you.
Well, you're wearing pants. I appreciate that.
I just insulted you guys and I feel like a dick. God damn it. Should probably just wrap it up now.
Right after the insult. Just right at,
It's all
I've
downhill.
insulted you guys.
Now I'm on the slippery slope
quit.
now, and it's all downhill from here. You guys, this is amazing. You need to know, the whole world needs to know that I got to Jay Rice's house to do the podcast, and I went up to the door, and Jay Rice...
I'm so rich!
Jay Rice is so loaded in his extravagant South Fargo home that he has not one but two doorbell buttons outside his door. 2 different doorbell buttons. And I had so much anxiety over deciding which one might be the correct one to work, because I assume, well, there's two because maybe one doesn't work anymore or something. But why are there two?
But then why would you be worried about pushing the one that doesn't work anymore?
Pick? I had so much. Look, Jay, I didn't say it makes sense. I'm just saying it happened. I had so much uncertainty over which doorbell button I should push that I just didn't push either of them, and I knocked on the door, and nobody but the dogs knew I was here.
In the old days, to be fair, they had the doorbells that made some kind of buzzing when you pushed them. Today, they don't acknowledge that you've pushed them.
I was just confounded by the existence of two doorbell buttons next to each other and had no idea how to rationalize that situation in a real world context. It was terrifying.
The worst part is his house is so big, he does need two to hear them.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and then he knocked, and I never did. If it wasn't for the dog barking, I would have never known he was at the door. Then he'd have to go back to thinking, which button do I push?
Which one do I push?
Do you even know?
Well, I think the first one
is everything you need to know about his answer to that question. He has no idea which button
I don't even know.
controls which.
You should tell people when they come to your house that they have to press the...
Push this,
push it in a sequence.
Right, push this one first, and then if I don't respond to that, push
Seems like
this
I didn't even tell him what he was supposed to do for the podcast.
No,
Why would I
what
remember
makes
to
you think he's going to tell me which doorbell button to push?
Just print out instructions.
I gotta say, like, I don't understand anxiety, especially anxiety to that kind of level, because the only time I think I had a panic...
Stop looking at my leg.
The only time I got a panic attack
showing me your leg.
was when I don't know. Yeah, said he does weird things during the podcast, but the only time I've ever had a panic attack or like any kind of feelings of anxiety was when I thought I was going to get knifed on a train in Thailand.
Oh, well, that was, to be fair, that was 100% marijuana-induced anxiety. That wasn't like anxiety. That was just I was high. That's all that was.
That's the best kind of anxiety.
No. Well, yes. Yeah, actually, yes, because there's no repercussions unless the police catch you. But
why are you standing outside this man's door, sir? I don't know which button to push.
Exactly.
Sir, are you high? Yes. Yes. Come with me.
Oh, no, real anxiety is no fun. I've had a little bit of experience with it. Thankfully, I don't have it as severely as some people do, but I got the depression real good. The depression's a fun thing. That's fuck.
Is that why you're a comic? Is that why you're a comic, JD? Is you feel like you've got enough issues to talk about?
No, I'm a comic as a defense mechanism. That's pretty much it's that whole sort of, you develop a sense of humor so that you can get to the laugh before other people get to the laugh at your expense.
It's the only thing that prevents you from stealing or hurting people.
Right. Well, I don't know about that. I think being fat is what prevents me from stealing, because I'd be easy to catch.
What? Who's going to claim that you've got hams under that shirt?
It's really hard to... Well, first of all, I take offense at the suggestion that I would steal hams. That seems a little stereotypical.
But if you're going to steal meat, hams are expensive.
Well, but roast beef is way more expensive. That's, I don't know. But, no, it's just, it's so that's a part of it. And there's... Frankly, a lot of comedians would never admit to it because they're so caught up in that idea of just like depression and comedy as therapy. But there's absolutely, in every single person who ever gets on a stand-up comedy stage, a small amount, at least to some degree, an amount of ego and just complete egomania. Where it's just like that assumption that you have something that's so clever and interesting to say that everybody in the room should just shut the fuck up and listen to what you have to say.
That's a complete difference between podcasters. I mean, we don't think everybody in that room needs to listen.
Right.
We just think everybody needs to listen.
Yeah, it's so yeah.
Yes.
There's. And I think for a lot of them, it's very minor and it's an undercurrent of things. But yeah,
it's also a lot of broken people.
There's definitely a lot of there is a lot of depression in it for sure.
Right.
But I don't think that's everything by all means. It's
definitely not. I would say I would have been out of comedy a long time ago if it wasn't a healthy sense of narcissism and denial. That's what I'm working on.
You said it, Jay, not me. So we'll just leave that at that. No, there's absolutely a certain amount of ego involved. There has to be. But also, like, I think a certain amount of self-loathing and an interest in sort of psychological masochism of just putting yourself on display and just inviting the potential for negative criticism. It's
We were talking about that on a previous episode, the idea that you would expose your vulnerabilities to
Basically-
an audience and they would laugh at you.
Right.
And
Right.
that's what you want.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
And the idea is in a way, and again, I feel like this is a certain amount of the narcissistic element, because the idea is it's like this idea of making yourself like a sacrifice for everyone else's benefit. I will lay bare the quirks of me so that you can respond to them because you relate without having to lay them open for yourself. And so there's a certain amount of like, I'm going to step up and take one for the team, and the return is you're all going to metaphorically suck my dick.
But a lot of that seems also to be the illusion of control. The idea that if you're presenting your own vulnerabilities to an audience, it's not them who gets to present it to you, it's you. And you can be
There's definitely an element of control in it as well, which I think is still, again, ties in with a lot of the ego. And that's why you'll find a lot of comedians, myself included, not all of them by any means, but there are a lot of us who will do really well on stage. And as soon as the show is over and we're just circulating among the audience, like after the show, like just hanging out in the bar, trying to be social, just a mess of a human being. There's like no ability to communicate or...
Do you ever get people who are like, you were so funny on stage, but you're now a disappointment? Why
Yeah,
aren't you funny?
it's a thing that happens. It's
I thought I wanted to talk to you, but I was wrong.
Because when I'm the center of attention and I have the microphone and the spotlight and everybody's just listening to me, there's a confidence there that I don't have when I'm just another person in a crowd of people.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely an element of it. Is that? But a certain amount of it is also I'm going to be the one who takes one, and I think there's a certain amount of that just ultimately in sacrificial mentality in general. I think there is a certain element of pride and honor in the sense of I'm going to be the one who takes one for the team. I'm going to be the one who steps up. There's a certain amount of ego in that.
Thank you.
That's why when you're, I mean, just as a human, are basically as perfect as I am. That's why you just talk about dick and vagina jokes.
Hey man, dick jokes make the world go round. Don't let anybody ever tell you different. There are a lot of people who always be like, yeah, it's just dick jokes. It's just, first of all, they can't even define what they mean specifically when they say it's just dick jokes. And secondly, the one thing they don't want to admit is dick jokes fucking work, and that's why everybody does them. It's that I definitely try to be as clever as possible with your dick joke, but don't kid yourself. Dick jokes make comedy, like, dick jokes are the fundamental
They're the
crux
glue.
of comedy. That's what makes it all
We are
work.
bonded together by
Dick
dick
jokes.
jokes.
Very true.
Hell yeah.
Well, guys, I got to say thank you for taking it for the team, both of you,
We try, man.
and being on
We
stage to
try.
entertain. I will keep my heckling to a minimum.
Honor my sacrifice. That's
Just
the-
get up on the stage and
narcissism.
scream at people.
There's a sign.
Honor my sacrifice.
I tried to make this a joke a couple of times at open mics, but I don't think it's an idea that works as like a stage joke. But it's just so funny to me when you're walking like at Courtney's Comedy Club over in Moorhead. You have to go down this hallway that you access through a door in the lounge, and you go down this hallway and then you turn the corner and the club is there. But at the door where you first enter this hallway, they have a sign. And the sign on the door says, "Please have ID ready." But ID is 2 capital letters, and they don't have, like, periods after each one.
Please
so
have
it
id.
looks like it says, "Please have id ready."
Yeah.
Which I think is the best sign to have on the door of a comedy club you could ever have in your life. Please have it. It's the most ironically smart and clever way to say, buckle up, there's dick jokes coming, that I have ever seen. There's dick and fart jokes ahead. Be ready. I thought it's my favorite sign. That might be the next album title. Please,
you need to have a second line on there. Ego will be provided.
Yeah, it's oh man! By the way, don't forget. I gotta go online and change the name of my recording.
Yeah,
I like how he's telling himself that, so in case he listens to the episode, he'll be like, JD,
just the tip.
Don't forget to change it.
I don't know if Bandcamp will let me change the name.
What?
That thought just occurred to me. Is I don't know if Bandcamp will let me change the album name after I've already released it.
Send them an email.
But we'll try to change it to Just the Tip. Because that's a way better name than I'm Just Saying You Guys.
That would be amazing. That's a compliment. Thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for appearing on the show today. And if you have any closing statements you need to alert the world to.
Let me pimp my record again. Again, it's JD Proverse. As of right now, titled I'm Just Saying You Guys, hopefully soon to be known as Just the Tip. You can get it at jdprovorse.bandcamp.com. It's like 28 minutes long. You can stream it for free a couple of times on there, but if you're not a dick, you'll give me a little bit of money for it. I asked like a $5 minimum payment. I think $5 for 28 minutes of comedy ain't too much. Maybe I'm just rationalizing it to myself. You don't have to pay just...
I like how he's like mumbling away at the
You
end.
don't have to pay just $5 either. Maybe you really like it and you want to give me more money than that. I'm not above begging you to pay me more than $5 for the recording that I didn't even put on CDs. But yeah, you can listen to it at jdprovorse.bandcamp.com.
And if you give
I don't
more
trust
than...
digital media, just so you know.
And
So
for
I
20
can't have it until you put it on like a
for
CD
for
for me.
$20, you'll also include a CD of this rant.
Wait, I will? When did I sign that contract? Shit.
All right, well, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
It's been a blast.